you'll see how I was watching a tax commercial and they were rapping and throwing money and doing things that are associated with this genre, okay? So it was for H&R Block. I was talking to my girlfriend. I said, are you seeing this? This is incredible to me. It's amazing. However, I want you to understand, let's get into the $9.99. So yes, he's going through all those basic things, but the $9.99 has everything to do with transcendence and spirituality and evolution, which is exactly what Jay has done in every song on this 444 album, from dealing with his mother's sexuality and embracing her no matter what, which is not done in the black community or hip-hop culture. So right there, he's breaking rank. His mother has a song on this album where he's talking about his mother being gay and accepting her and loving her no matter who she loves, and then she does a beautiful poem at the end. That is groundbreaking, especially for a man of his status, because he's not just a regular rapper that nobody's heard of. This is a person who is hobnobbing with our former president, and he is purchasing art, and he did a live art installation at the MoMA a couple years ago that was incredible. And he is an art purveyor. He also is a person that takes in life on many levels. So he's not this one-dimensional character. I think that's what I'm trying to convey today. There's more to all of us. And even this person that you may look at and think, I know what he's about. There's a lot more going on, and there's that for you too, I think. So as we get into 999, and he's dealing with that and breaking rank with his mother, to admitting that he is flawed and how he's been in his marriage. These are things that he would have not ever owned up to if he were not being led, is my estimation. So I want to take you inside the journey via the angel number. When you're dealing with 999, it's comprised of the vibrations of the number being tripled. So it's a very powerful number because it's just not 19. 9 comes with its own power, but it resonates with the universal spiritual laws. It resonates with a higher perspective and influence. I would say he's very influential. It resonates with benevolence and altruism and nonconformity. In many of his raps, he talks about being a nonconformist and leading life as a positive example for others. Now, here's the funny thing about him. He's not always been a positive example, and he talks about that. We're going to get into some of the lyrics in a moment so you can understand that he's not trying to whitewash or sugarcoat who he is. And I think there's strength in that vulnerability. I think that if we could lean out of the shame of our past for any of us, that we can embrace and be not as judgmental about what we might be being led to do, and we might not have to estimate whether we're worthy to hold or do or give the message that we felt led to give because we weren't the greatest person that we thought we should be, or we weren't an ideal. We have an ideal of what we should have been, and I think that that's something that I find him struggling with, and it's something I relate to as a human. So he's leading when you're dealing with 999. It's about a higher perspective. It's about an expansive viewpoint, duty, and calling. It's about strength of character, philanthropy, humanitarianism, light working. Isn't that interesting? Jay-Z is using that number, talking about it. I don't know if he fully realizes what he's doing, but to me, I was like, you're light working here. It also denotes endings and conclusions. So let's stop there for a moment. Endings and conclusions. Jay-Z is ending a superficial part of his life, the bling-bling, big pimpin', all that stuff he talked about, where he didn't connect in love with his wife, and he allowed his ego to rule the day. And we'll get more into that in a moment. But I thought that was a fascinating thing. It deals with endings, and it sounds like he's really trying to end some things. When you're dealing with angel number 999, it also brings a message that certain aspects of your life are coming to the end or close point, or a phase or cycle is ending. And it's so important for you to trust that it's happening for karmic reasons, which will become evident in the near future for you to fully pursue your life's purpose and soul mission as your soul's destiny dictates. So it's so important that you trust the information and the guidance and assistance that you will need upon your path to be supplied. When you're dealing with this, it's a strong message, that 999, to fully devote yourself to your life's mission without delay. Listen to the guidance from your angels, and if feelings of fear or doubt come about in your life's path, sweep them away because you're doing what you should be doing. What Jay-Z understands on a vibrational level, when I hear him talking about these angel numbers, is that it's time for change. And we often look at others and place expectations about who they are and what the nature of their spiritual life may be. Isn't that funny? Now, we make snap decisions. It's what we do, and it's what we have to do for evolutionary purposes, meaning in order to survive, our ancestors had to make a split decision: will that dinosaur kill me? Or will that, is that animal a danger? Is this berry going to kill me? Is this mushroom the right thing to eat? There are split-second decisions, and that's why we have intuition, and we use that lizard part of our brain we've talked about before, the very primal part that makes that decision. But we do that still, even though it's not for matters of survival all the time, even though on some level it is. I think that we do that. We make these snap judgments about people. And I've learned this important lesson as I follow his career and other artists that I respect of various genres again's career, is that we can't know what someone's spiritual life is. Because I see in evidence by what he's created here that our angels are always communicating to each and every one of us, and that we're met at the level we're at. We're spoken to and we're guided, and it has truly never been more evident than when I'm listening to this album. He is plugged in, and he has been plugged in, and I personally believe that it is the reason that a man from the project has found himself in alignment to become a billionaire before he's 50. Now, I would say, hey, well, why can't that be my experience? Well, it may not be all of our experiences. We all have an opportunity to achieve excellence if we are only truly listening, and that's the common thread that I want to tie through here. The listening is as complicated as we will make it. Do you get that? People think that listening means I need to go, I need to do confessions, I need to be kneeling and praying and doing all of this. There's so many ways to listen. For some people, that is exactly how they listen here and get spoken to. That works beautifully for them, and God never misses them. For some people, it's going out in nature and connecting. For some people, it's finding feathers. For some people, it's seeing numbers. But you know what? We're vibrational beings, and we're always being communicated with. So if you are asking and seeking and you want to hear, you will hear in whatever way it speaks to you. For some people, it's through Buddhism. Through some people, it's through other explorations of spirituality. But there is no wrong way. Now, some sects of certain religions would have you believe their way is the only way, and I think that's where man gets in and muddles what God, universe, and source created, which was this one love. That is really what life is about. We, as humans, like boxes. We like things to be really neat. We like things to fit and feel right for what feels right for us. We don't want to step outside and maybe embrace somebody else with a differing opinion or a different view or a different religion. Religion is that thing you do, it's rote, and maybe it takes you into a place because it's ritualistic. But spirituality is expansive, and it has no boundaries, and in that way, we all get messages in the way that works for us, because Source is so incredible, so specific, that we can all be spoken to. Even a rapper, even a television host, even a criminal, even a child. Everybody gets to hear. That is the magic, the beauty, and the expansiveness of spirituality. It's far less constricting than religion. I want you to think about that. So, back to Jay-Z. I think we all have this opportunity to achieve excellence if we're listening. And like I said, Jay-Z may not be going to Mass every Sunday, but he's plugged in. And so, I ask you today, what are the ways that you're plugged in? How do you plug in? How do you connect? And I was recently talking with a friend who's a life coach, and we were discussing the crippling effects of ego. Yes, this is a conversation I just happen to have on a Tuesday, because I'm always thinking about how to grow, how to stamp out my ego, identifying ego in others, figuring out what way do I really evolve. It's not just the name of the show, it's the way I try to live my life. And she reminded me that as an acronym, it stands for edging God out. So sit with that for a moment. Edging God out. That's what our ego is. In those moments when we know that we should be shifting and doing a new thing, we sometimes find ourselves in the position where we're doing a different thing and not understanding what's driving us. It's our ego. God, no coincidence, that if you rearrange that word too, it spells God, ego. If you refocus, you get God. When you focus on yourself, you get ego. So it's all about a myopic or a macro view of things. I think you need to zoom out sometimes and realize that the big picture is God. The small picture, that myopic picture, is ego. So when you're dealing with that, I was writing the show, I thought, okay, let's go back to Jay-Z. It boomeranged me right back. In his songs, he explores killing his ego. In fact, there's a song in which he addresses the subject, and the name of the song is called Kill Jay-Z. And I thought this was so Brene Brown level of vulnerability. If you're familiar with the work of Brene Brown, she is a doctor who talks about the work of shame and vulnerability and living full out. You could probably see her on a lot of TED Talks, Oprah, various things like that. If you're curious, you can YouTube her easily. Brene Brown. She's from Texas. Good old Texas girl. But what Jay-Z does in this song reminds me of the work. I'm thinking, is he reading Brene Brown? I don't know his life, but I am in awe of the way that he has ripped back a lot of the bravado and gotten to the truth. So let's talk about some of these lyrics. He says, kill Jay-Z. They'll never love you. You'll never be enough. Let's just keep it real, Jay-Z. I'll stop there. Hello, that doesn't sound like a rap of misogyny to me. It absolutely sounds like the inner child vulnerable place that we all have. They'll never love you. You'll never be enough. How many of us have thought that no matter what we do, we are not enough? We are never going to be loved, and that we're only as good as the last thing we've done. And this is something that I see that happens a lot with artists, too. We hold ourselves, creators, content creators, artists, whatever you want to call yourself, in this new Wild West of the Internet's world. If you've created something, it's easy to feel like you're only as good as the last thing you created. For some people that put out a grand opus and they get out the thing they need to get out. I think of To Kill a Mockingbird, this book that was written, and then not much else, but she came here to do this one thing. And she may have done other things, but that was the thing that shifted the way that we looked at what was going on in race and society. And she was brave and bold, and she spoke her truth about it. And she wasn't even living inside of the experience. It was her observing the experience from a different perspective. She wasn't the minority, but she birthed this work, and it was amazing. And I'm sure, and I've heard interviews and read things with Harper Lee where she struggles with what she did after, and was it ever enough, and could she ever rise to that occasion? Could she ever do that again and have that phenomenon? Sometimes we come here to birth something. When you're an artist and you want to be perpetually creating, you find yourself in a position where you think, this is all I have, and what if the next thing isn't as good as this last thing, and what if I never hit those numbers again, and what if I never do this much or sell as much? There is this drive, ego, we edge God out, and we get into ourselves, and we think, I'm not enough, and we think it's all about us. Jay-Z, in being a vessel and allowing some downloads to come through in this album, has in fact done exactly what he was supposed to do, what he's supposed to birth, I believe. But I thought that was a nice moment of vulnerability. You'll never be enough. Let's just keep it real. He then goes on to talk about how he shot his own brother. He says, you shot your own brother. How can we know if we can trust Jay-Z? And you better know, I know you, and I know you've gotten better, but you owe this to your daughter, Blue. He has a daughter named Blue Ivy. And he's talking about he has to be a better person because he has this daughter to provide for and raise, and this daughter that's going to look up to him. And then he goes deeper. He says, you had no father. You had the armor. But now you have a daughter. You have to get softer. Then he says, die, Jay-Z. This isn't back in the days. You don't need an alibi, Jay-Z. Cry, Jay-Z. We know the pain is real, but you can't heal what you never reveal. What are you going to do, Jay-Z? Does this sound like basic beats and stuff to play in the club? No, this sounds like the journal writing of a person who's stripping himself bare. I was so impressed that I wrote a show about it because I thought, my God, this sounds like what I might go through or what other thinkers go through and people that are introspective. This doesn't sound like somebody from the hood. This sounds like an evolved